everyone. Welcome back to Author Entrepreneur Collective, the podcast where we dive into the stories, strategies, and soul behind building a life and business through your voice, your message, and your mission. I'm your host, Stacey Matson, author of Bucket List Living, Living Your Purpose, and owner of Bucket List Unlimited. Today's conversation is one that blends mindset, manifestation, identity, and what it truly means to create a life you love from the inside out. Our guest today is Kelly Weaver, author of Living Your Own Aloha, 5 Steps to Manifesting Your Dreams. Kelly is a law of attraction coach who teaches people how to align their thoughts, emotions, and beliefs to consciously create the life they desire. Today, we're diving into what living your own aloha means, the biggest misconceptions around manifestation, how your beliefs and your self-worth shape your reality, and how you can start shifting your life today in a real and grounded way. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Aloha. Thank you so much for having me, Stacey.
You're welcome. Do you want to add anything about your book and your business before we get started?
Well, I guess it's important to tell how the book came about, kind of the origin story, because I had known that I wanted to write a book for many years, but the problem was I could never get a download or what it was supposed to be. And one day I was walking in meditation, and it downloaded all at once. It was like, you need to write a book about your spiritual awakening, and you need to use the word aloha. And I had part of the title in my head, and I knew it was going to be 5 letters. And so I quickly was like, oh, ALOHA, that's 5 letters. And then through that, worked on the title of the book and basically what the book was going to be about.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really one of those, aha moments. And then it was just, okay, we're going to sit and we're going to write about it, and really get a process out that I had created to teach people how they could be a deliberate creator in their life.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of people don't realize how powerful or creator you can be.
Absolutely. We all have that power. And, some people will say to me, oh, you're so lucky. And it really has nothing to do with luck. I just learned some steps, changed some mindset habits and things like that. And really realized after my spiritual awakening that I had been creating the whole time. We all are creating the whole time. It's just, what do you want to create?
Exactly. Well, are you ready to dive into the questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. The title, Living Your Own Aloha, is powerful. What does aloha really mean beyond the surface level idea most people have?
Yeah, so this is really important. Not born and raised in Hawaii, I was very cautious about using the word aloha because there are kumus, which is the word for teacher, that some of them don't even say the word because it's so sacred. Um, we use aloha very much here as hello and goodbye, but it's actually not a word. It's a way of being. It's a lifestyle. It's actually really rooted in love. And that's what made sense to me when Spirit downloaded and said to use the word love, because it's not something that you say, it's something here that you live. It's how you treat people, it's how you show up, it's how you give and receive. And so to me, love aloha is actually love in action. And when you begin from that place, when you begin from love, which is the highest vibration, your life starts to really shift.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You describe aloha as a way of life rooted in love, which you just talked about. When did that shift from concept to lived experience for you?
Honestly, it was during the hardest transition. So I know people out there are like, oh, you moved to Hawaii. How could that have been hard? But, we moved from Pennsylvania where all of our family and our friends were. And so it felt very much alone. We didn't know anyone. We had no family, no support system. And I just remember thinking like, what do we do now? But then all of a sudden, people started showing up. Strangers became family, people helped us, they loved us, they welcomed us, and I felt this aloha in just a really embodied way. And then it just clicked. And so aloha isn't just something that you find in a place. It's actually something that you create and carry.
Mhm. If someone feels disconnected from love or purpose right now, where do they even begin?
I know that's really hard. And I'm sure when you wrote your book, you explored that too, right? You have to begin very small. And I don't like to use manifestation, which I know we're going to get into, really is not about just sitting around and wishing, right? There's action to it. And so even in that moment when you feel there's nothing that you can do, you don't have to figure out your whole life, right? You just need to reconnect to one moment of feeling better. So in the book, I talk about the vibrational scale. Love, as I mentioned, being at the highest level, and gratitude is up there as well. And so, getting back to gratitude is something that is easy for all of us to do. Just taking a moment and really thinking about a time in your life when you were really grateful because something happened. And, these are frequencies that you want to get into. And then all of a sudden, that's going to just shift you. I call it in the book like 1 degree, but those 1 degrees eventually add up and really begin shifting your whole entire life.
Yeah, I believe that's so true because I started a gratitude journal probably about a month ago, and my life has shifted in such amazing ways. It's
Yeah.
like unimaginable, right? It's amazing.
I'll tell you the secret. Gratitude is the secret. Like everyone's looking for the secret. I've actually been practicing gratitude for over 9 years, every single day. My anniversary for 10 years will be September 1st of 2026. And the way that my life has changed is probably going to be one of the next books that I write, because it's free. Anybody can do it. It's easy, and you noticing it in just a month is also a testament to how
Right.
powerful it is.
Yes, that's so true. You share vulnerably in your book about breaking your ankle and realizing you were spiritually broken. Can you walk us through that moment of awakening?
Oh my gosh, yes. So in 2009, my husband and I came to Hawaii for our anniversary trip, which is how we fell in love with this place. And just as we were about to leave, we were in the airport and I was on a set of stairs and I misstepped and dislocated and broke my ankle right in the airport. And so I had to have surgery, I had to have pins. I mean, it was a really bad break. And so what happened was we got home and I had to have surgery. And in that moment, I just broke down. Like my ankle was broken, but I had this epiphany that I actually was really broken. There was a lot of trauma in my childhood and in my life that I had not deal with. I was an avid runner, and I realized that I had been running. Running was a way to cope with the trauma and the pain. And it was as if, I realized after that moment that spirit, God, source, higher power, whatever you believe in, had been giving me signs. Like I could look back and say, I see that they tried to do it now. And then spirit was like, you know what? We tried a gentle way and you didn't listen. So now we're going to literally sit you down. And I didn't realize how much I was running from life. And so in that moment, I started just delving into everything that I could read. I had had a copy of The Secret that a friend had given me. And again, about divine timing, didn't pick it up, didn't look at it. I'm an avid reader, I read every single day. But I read that book and it was like everything in my life clicked. It was like almost like I could see why this happened and this happened and this happened. And then I just went all in and tried to learn everything that I could so that I could finally heal myself. And it's been the most incredible experience since.
That's amazing. Yeah, I know that for me at least, and I'm sure it's probably true for you too, that um, God has given me trials, like the same trials until I learn my lesson, right?
Absolutely. God, the universe, whatever you call it, is a
Yeah,
great teacher. When you
yeah,
don't learn it one way, it's going to teach you a different way. It's going to differentiate for you.
yes, that's so true. Looking back, do you think that moment had to happen for your life to change?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Like I ignored all the whispers, and I'm just grateful that for me, it was just a broken ankle. And when I say just a broken ankle, I have to tell you also what's interesting is, most people, like, I broke my ankle and they're like, oh, you're going to be fine in like 8 weeks, right? You'll put the cast on, you'll go to rehab. No, My ankle was years. And I realize now it was because it was during that time that I was doing some really deep healing and there were still things I had to learn. And so the ankle was just constant reminder of like your work is not finished, you're not done. And it was only really until 2013 that I had three surgeries on it that now it's as completely healed as it can. It's obviously a broken bone. It'll never be 100%. But I realized, wow, what a journey this ankle has been.
Just curious, are you still a runner?
I am not actually, and I think that was another thing that Spirit was trying to teach me was that, running was great for the moment, but why I was doing it was to avoid, right? And to do all the things. And now I don't have to always be it's very interesting. I was always very outgoing, had to be in the center of people, had to be around a lot of people to get energy. But through this whole awakening, I've actually found that I love me and I can just be still with me, and that's okay. So I think that that was another important reason why my running career kind of ended.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally get that because I went through the same as spiritual awakening more recently, of course, but yeah, now I'm like so comfortable with me and it's just I can't even conjure the words because I've used amazing enough, but yeah.
Yes.
It's enlightening, I guess would be a good better word.
Yeah, totally.
You talk about the universe trying to get your attention multiple times. How can people recognize those moments before something drastic happens?
Sure. Yeah. So look for patterns. Look at places where you're feeling stuck. Maybe you're really feeling frustrated. Maybe you do have that little voice that's like telling you and you're ignoring it, your intuition. And it's gonna nudge you in certain ways. It's just, are you really listening? And I think that was part of my problem is I wasn't trusting my own intuition because when I look back, I can be very clear of like, oh, that happened, or I was told this, or somebody said this, and I wasn't awake, so I wasn't able to hear. And it's like when you just start becoming more, calm, meditative, reflective, those signs and symbols are going to pop up.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. We're going to move on to the Aloha framework, the core of your book. So the first letter is A for ask. You say most people think they're asking for what they want, but they're actually asking for what they don't want. Can you explain that?
Because we as humans are negative beings by right, because years ago we used to get chased around by saber-toothed tigers. Right? And so we focus on lack. They say things, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be in debt, I don't want this relationship to fail. So the universe doesn't translate don't, right? It responds to the energy behind that. And when you say those kind of things, there's a vibration again that you're emitting that says, well, I don't have it, that's lack. And so you're actually amplifying the things that you're trying to avoid.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. What's the biggest mistake people make when trying to manifest something?
Yeah. So again, it all goes back to vibration. They have either a lack of clarity, okay? I see that a lot in the people that I work with. They think they know what they want, but when we delve into it, they really don't. And their energy is misaligned. So they say they want something, but then they're vibrating in fear and doubt or desperation. And that's like putting an order in, but then canceling it, which we'll get into like every 5 minutes. So you really have to make sure that your desire and your vibration are actually aligned in order for the universe to bring you what you actually want.
Yeah, I agree. The second one is L for listen. What does it actually mean to listen to the universe? And how do you know it's not just your own thoughts?
So when I became a teacher, one of the questions that was asked to me in one of the interviews is there a difference between hearing and listening? And I remember I said some answer, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But we hear things, but we're not listening. And what I mean by that is we're not paying attention to our intuition, to signs, to nudges, to synchronicities. People see the clock at 11:11 or, 3:33. There could be a sign that literally drives by you and you ignore it. So it's an inner knowing that doesn't come from logic. It really comes from your alignment.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. I know I look for, well, and I see signs, not necessarily looking for them, but I see signs when I'm trying to like have a goal for something or whatever. And yeah, signs just appear that saying, yeah, I'm either aligned with the goal or I'm not.
Correct. Right. And listen to that and trust it, you know? And if you're that's another good point too, is like if you aren't sure, ask for the sign. Like, should I be I do that all the time. Should I be doing that? And I always am like, and it needs to be crystal clear. Like I just saw my friend's post the other day and she asked for a sign and literally a truck came by and it said something on it like, this is the sign you've been looking for. She's like, well, I guess you can't get more clear than that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you know.
How can someone build trust in their intuition if they've ignored it for years?
Oh, okay. Well, I think you rebuild your intuition the same way that you would in any relationship. Like you have to listen and act in small ways. You know, you got to start small and then you got to follow through and you got to watch what happens. And when you hear that little inner voice, act on it. You know, especially and start small. You know, you don't want to act on like if you get the intuition to quit your job, maybe that's not the thing. But if it's an intuition of like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't park there, or maybe I should go this way instead. Like, listen to those little nudges because the more you do that, the more you begin trusting yourself, especially when you can see, like, oh, I avoided traffic or I avoided something. Then you start believing my intuition is actually working.
Right. The third letter is O for open. What does being open really look like in practice?
Ah, so open means releasing control, right? Over how stuff is going to show up in your life and be willing to receive in unexpected ways. You know, you can't micromanage what the universe is going to bring to you. The one example that I use in the book for this is we were manifesting a car for my daughter. And, you know, she had definite, of course, every kid or every person does, you know, you want a certain car, make, model, color, but being open to it, and I won't spoil it, you know, if you read the book, but being open brought us something we hadn't even imagined. And so allowing that control to go and just being open that, you know what, you're probably going to get something better if you can be open, and just trusting and allowing that.
Yeah. I think that was my hardest thing to learn because I always try to control my life, right? And I had to give up that control um,
Yes,
to get what I wanted.
absolutely. It seems opposite, but it actually is what you need to do.
Yeah. Why do people unknowingly block their own manifestations?
Exactly what you just said. There's this control and this fear. Like if I don't have control of it and I don't have, you know, over it, and they've got these limiting beliefs and they want it their way, but actually your resistance is slowing it down. So the more that you can just be open and not worry about, which we're going to talk about in the next one, I think, how it's coming about is going to just dazzle and delight you in so many ways.
Yeah. H is how. Yes. You emphasize detaching from the how. Why is that so hard for high achievers and entrepreneurs?
So if I if I could really teach this, I would be a gajillionaire because this is where everyone's problem, including myself, sometimes, you know, I get into it. Okay, so the how is none of your business. When you put your desire out into the universe and you know what you want, you have to be open to how the universe brings that. It may not be in the way. And what I see working with clients on this is it's usually around money, right? They need or want a certain amount of money, which is never good to have that desperation. And so then they automatically think that the only way that that can come is through work. They don't see all the possibilities that can happen. So again, detaching is the fastest way and just trusting, you know what, it's going to come to me if it's for my highest good. And we're going to get into that in the little exercise we're going to do. But if you can really learn this detachment, I guarantee you, you're going to start manifesting so much faster than you thought possible.
Well, and for me, I I get this where for money manifestation, I think it's more about helping people, and the more people you help, the money is just going to come to you, right? Because you shouldn't be focused on the money. You should be focused on helping people.
And it's an energy. That's the other thing that people don't understand. Money is an energy, just like if you're trying to manifest something as simple as a parking space. They are the same, right? But the thing is, with a parking space, we're a lot more detached from it because it's like for some reason we're like, okay, we'll find a parking space. Maybe it won't be ideal, right? But with the money, that's where the problem comes in. We have such this emotional attachment and need, that then it's hard to see that it's actually just the same kind of thing. That if we let it go, if we operate from that place of love, like you said, and of help, because that's again, we're aligning our frequency, it's going to be much quicker and much faster, and it's going to be for everyone's highest good. And there's unlimited, like that's the thing, it's limitless. We can't think, well, if I earn this money, I'm taking from my client. No, my client also can unlearn, can earn unlimited abundance as well.
Yeah, because money is energy. That's why it's called currency, right?
Correct. Yes, exactly. I love that.
What's a practical way to release control without feeling like you're giving up?
Focus on that feeling. That's another important piece of manifestation. What's it going to feel like once this comes into your life? Joy and happiness and excitement. And then take aligned action. This is not about sitting around and wishing, like I had mentioned. Like I work with people specifically on this. And for example, I worked with someone that was starting a business, a side business. And one of the things I told her was, let's just send an email. Okay, like she wanted to get into a shop. She was doing making soap, wanted to get into local shops. And I said, "Okay, one of the things I just want you to do is just send an email." And she's like, "Well, that doesn't seem like a big action." But it does, the universe again, right? We're taking small steps, and then eventually things started to really cascade for her. But people will stop there. They don't look at that as taking a small step. Even if you're like looking for a job, even if you just go on the internet and you're looking, even if you're not putting out a resume or anything, you're sending a sign to the universe like, I'm serious about this and I'm going to take some small, action toward it. And so then you're responsible for that, that energy and that action.
Yeah, that's true. The last letter is A, act as if. Acting as if can feel fake to some people,
Mhm.
including me. How do you
Yeah.
explain this in a way that actually works?
So Neville Goddard, who's like the guru in all of this, teaches the end. And so you have to envision yourself in the end, again, around that feeling. So you have to act as if this manifestation's already happened, because in the other ethers, it already has. Once you put your order out there, you have to trust that, okay, if it's going to be for my highest good, it's going to manifest. And if it doesn't, then there was a reason. And I like to say rejection is either protection or redirection. Sometimes, like, and I'll give you a great example that just happened to my daughter. And my oldest daughter doesn't always agree with all of this stuff. So I want to be very clear about that. She struggles with some of my things. And I tell her this all the time, and she's always like, mom, But she had applied for a job that she thought she really wanted, and she didn't get it, and she's been in another job now, and she just found out that they laid off both people in that job. And so I told her, that's my example of protecting you, because you got your job that you've been in now for, several months, and if you would have gotten that job, you would have been laid off. So, and when I the act as if also, before I got the job that I wanted, I and I talk about this in the book, I would pretend like answering the phone, answering an email in the title, and embodying that identity that I wanted. And like, it sounds a little crazy, but you have to act as if, so that the universe knows you're really serious, or God, spirit, whatever you call it, that you want that.
Agreed. Yeah. And I don't know if you've heard of this concept, but David Bayer talks about time as not a timeline, but actually like a circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And see, that was something I talk about in my book. Your timeline is not the universe's timeline.
Right.
Sometimes your manifestation may feel like it's never coming, and then it comes in a very different way. And if we have time, I can share a story specifically about that with me. And so I agree with that. Like, I don't think that, we can't be on our timeline as humans. It's hard because, again, we want that control. But if we really want something, we've got to trust that somehow it's already baking somewhere else and it's going to get to us.
Exactly. Yeah. It just might take a little longer than what we expect, right?
Right. Absolutely.
What's the difference between delusion and aligned belief?
Mm. I think delusion kind of ignores the reality. Like we do have, again, I don't like to teach like some kind of panacea, but your aligned belief would actually then expand it. So then you're still taking action, but it's from a place of belief instead of lack.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had to learn this too, is you have to believe that it's going to happen.
Yes.
And what I do is I journal and thank, God. I believe in God. So thank
Yes.
God for things that haven't happened yet, but I
Yes.
write it like it's already happened, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's one of the processes I talk about in the book, which is one thing I forgot to mention in the book. And I can't remember if you were going to ask me this, but one of the things I'm most proud of about the book is it isn't just a book you read. Like every chapter ends with an inspired assignment. And so I ask people to actually work through and do the exercises because if you do, you will start seeing things happen in your life, right? A lot of times we read these self-help books or these kind of books of professional development, but they don't really give us practical tools. And I'm very much a coach and a teacher and an author that no, I'm gonna give you tools for your toolbox, and that way you're gonna be able to take those tools out and be able to actually use them.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of gives more credibility to your book because then people use the tools and they can see how it works for them, right? So
Right, exactly.
you compare beliefs to baking a pie. How do
Yeah.
people identify the ingredients they're unconsciously using?
Well, you look at your life. If your life is not working out and you're looking at your results, then your life is a reflection of your belief system. If you're a person, I've seen it, where, you complain all the time and you're negative all the time, your life probably shows up like that. And so it's like really thinking about what do you believe in and getting like again introspective with yourself. What do I really believe about myself? Do I really feel worthy and deserving of receiving? I find that with a lot of women specifically is that we have a hard time receiving. I did as well. I always felt like I had to give and that was important, but it's really important that we also be open to receiving because if you're not, God, universe, whatever, again, the term you use to believe in, can't give you things because you're kind of repelling it. And I have found that self-worth, that deservedness is actually such a belief that keeps people from getting the things that they want in their life.
Exactly. What's one limiting belief you see come up over and over again with your clients?
I'm not worthy. It shows up in money. It shows up in their relationships with, love. It shows up in their success. And it's like you need to really unpack where that belief, started, from. Also, the other belief that I see as a big one is like, again, what we talked about is if I accumulate all this abundance, then somebody else won't have that amount and I don't want to take from somebody. And that's, we know it's a limitless, nature shows us, you can't count the drops in an ocean, right? And so that's what abundance is for everyone.
Mhm. How do you rewrite beliefs that are deeply ingrained from your childhood?
Yeah. So that's where you have to have awareness. First, you need to identify what are my limiting beliefs, right? And sit down and be honest, write them out, okay? And don't judge yourself on it. And then when you then try and catch yourself, right? It's about awareness and being like, like maybe you'll say, ooh, when you get dressed, oh, I don't look good in that or whatever. Flip that in your head, right? No, this, looks nice or however you want to do it because that again we need to get because you can spew all the positive things and say all the right words, but if you're not emotionally aligned, it's not going to happen. So you really have to replace your old story until the new one feels true. And I know there's a lot of like research about how affirmations don't work, but I'm here to tell you I think they do because when I first started this, I used to say, I'm a seven-figure earning coach, international best-selling author, and teacher who travels the world teaching people how to reach their dreams. And that segment still isn't completely true, but over the years and over the work I've done, more and more of it became true. Like I became a coach, a certified coach. I became an author. I have done several keynote speeches. I have traveled to do speaking engagements. I do coach people all over the world. I've had clients in New Zealand and Australia and Singapore and Italy. So like all of us, say, and I would say that every day, for like, usually I would try to do it. I'd set an alarm at 11:11, right? Because 11 ones are a manifestation. Or I'd at least try to say it a few times a day for a 1 minute straight in my head or aloud whenever I had a chance. So I really do feel firmly that you do have to step into your new identity and change that story if you want to rewrite that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's what I found, at least personally, is that it wasn't until I actually started doing what I wanted to become that I manifested that stuff, right? So I'm like I just do it, even though I'm like I don't feel qualified, but I'm just gonna do it anyway, you know?
Absolutely. 100%.
And then and then it gives you evidence to negate the limiting beliefs so that way you believe the new belief.
Absolutely. I love that, Stacey. That's such a good point.
Yeah. Next, we're going to talk about self-worth and money. You
Mhm.
say self-worth equals net worth. That's a bold statement. Can you unpack that?
Yeah, well, you can't out earn your self-worth. Like, if you don't feel worthy of receiving money, you are blocking it. You're sabotaging it. You're becoming this repeller. I have this conversation all the time with my husband. He's got sometimes some very limiting money beliefs, right? And I'm like, so you're actually repelling all of it. But he says it's his way of protecting himself, right? Then you can't get disappointed when it doesn't show up. But if you are, confident in yourself and you have complete self-worth, you're going to start attracting the people, the opportunities, the situations that are going to get you that abundance. So I really do believe that that is, I feel like successful people, it's because they have good self-worth.
I totally agree. And I think to me, when you told me that story, I envisioned a bubble around him and nothing is able to get in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then but like you're open, so everything can just come to you.
Mhm. And I don't question anymore where the opportunity or the money or whatever is going to come. It's just because I've been so amazed at the different ways that I could never have if I couldn't have picked out from a multiple choice.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do so many people struggle to receive more even when they're working hard?
Yeah, so we like talked about this, right? Is it's that worthiness factor and many more people are better at giving than they are at receiving. And I think that a lot of that comes from especially our generation, our childhood, right? We're taught like you give, you don't ask for help, don't receive. And so and that was very hard for me. It was very hard for me to even just receive a compliment, but now I'm doing much better. I mean, I'm still a giver, don't misunderstand me, but when someone gives me something, and even if I don't have something in exchange for them, I don't have that guilt anymore. It was like, no, that person really wanted to share that with me, and I'm just going to receive it and accept it and be thankful for it.
I was the same way. Like I struggled to, take a compliment for the longest time. But yeah, it's like you said, little steps, baby steps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's a simple way someone can start increasing their self-worth today?
Yeah, so what I talk about in the book is you have to change the conversation with how you talk to yourself, right? Your inner dialogue is everything. And I know, especially as women, we have this dialogue with ourselves. And the thing is, we would never in a million years talk to our friend, our child, our spouse, or anything like that, right? And if we heard our friend, our child talking like that, we would intervene and say, what are you doing? So, your self talk and that inner dialogue, you got to get that in check and you got to start changing that.
Yeah, I agree. I struggled with that for a long time, and it wasn't until I was like, I deliberately, would hear my inner dialogue say something negative, and then I would make sure that I flipped the script and thought the opposite. So it trains your subconscious, right, to think more
Yes.
positive if you flip the script every single time.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's not, look,
It's
I don't
not
want to
easy.
make anyone out there listening. It's not easy work. It's
No,
intentional work, and it's something that takes time, and you're not going to get right away, but it's the practice of it that's important.
agreed. Law of attraction versus law of vibration. You explain that
Oh.
the law of vibration actually comes before the law of attraction. Can you break that down?
Yeah. So you don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. So your vibration actually sets the frequency first. So again, if you're coming in love and gratitude and compassion, that's the frequency you're going to manifest at. But if you're coming in with anger, regret, disappointment, that's what you're going to attract. And a lot of people do think that you can just kind of say your way out of it, but you can't trick vibration, right? And so you do have to come from that place of making sure you're vibing high, so to speak.
Do you think, and I didn't give you this question,
Okay.
do you think energy and vibration are the same thing?
I do. Yeah, I do, right? Because I feel like what you put out is what you get back always, and whether positive or negative. Like that's the thing. People are manifesting all the time. It just might be things they don't want because they're like a radio, right? They're putting out a frequency and they don't know what and maybe they're not conscious of like, oh, that's not gonna if I want to be on 102 then and I'm at 101 on the station, it's not gonna work
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
First, yeah. For someone stuck in fear or stress, how do they realistically raise their vibration in the moment?
Oh, okay. So this is where I would say gratitude comes in. I really am a firm believer. Like you just sitting and trying to think of one thing that you're grateful for that day. And no matter how hard the day is, there is always something to be grateful for. So it could just be that you made it through the day, or that you made it through that moment. But I think that that's really important. That's the thing. I'm not going to be able to probably shift you from fear to joy. That's probably not going to happen, right? But what I talk about in the book is 1 degree, right? Water boils at 211, but at 212 it becomes steam and can power a locomotive. So if I can get you shifted by 1 degree, that's significant enough that it really could change that vibration in those really tough moments.
Yeah, agreed. You shared a powerful story about your daughter's health scare. What did that teach you about emotional alignment?
Yeah, that was my daughter. So for those of you that haven't read the book yet, when she was very young, she was a teenager, but young teenager, she had a breast infection. And it was really, really scary because, her age, it didn't seem in alignment that that would happen. And so and I was very scared and I caught myself, but this is again about being aware. I really, and I know it might seem like, well, that sounds really crazy, but it was really the truth. I was in such an awful spin. I mean, I had her having a mastectomy, having like all kinds of crazy things, right, in my head. And then I stopped myself. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Where are you on this scale? I'm in complete fear and complete. And so then I had to shift myself to alignment. And it was like, again, moving one little bit. Like I was grateful that they caught it, right? Because they did catch it in a way that they could give her a lot of antibiotics. I was grateful. And then I started focusing, okay, I was grateful for the nurse that was very kind to her. I was grateful for the doctor who was very, even though he was a male, he was explaining everything to her from a very compassionate lens. And just really that I had insurance, that all the things. I just started really trying to pile on. Okay, what can I be grateful for right in this moment and shift that. And that really, really did seem to help.
Nice. Your reference the emotional guidance scale. How can
Mhm.
someone use their emotions as a compass in real life?
Like I just did, right? It's like being aware of where are you feeling? And then also what I will tell clients is where do you feel that emotion in your body? Right? Some people carry it in their throat, some people carry it in their heart or in their stomach. And then asking the emotion, like, are you ready to release? Can I let this go right now? And if the answer is no, if you need to hang on to it for whatever reason, It's okay, but having the ability to actually sit and process. We as humans don't, right? We drink it, we sex it, we drug it, we run away from it, we hide it on a shelf. And what happens is we put all those emotions and we just stuff and stuff and stuff until eventually you break your ankle or you get a disease or you have an accident or you have a breakdown. So it's really important that you start just really becoming aware of your emotions. And a lot of people aren't, or they just don't want to deal with it. So that's why I say they're like a compass, because they tell me on a daily basis, like, okay, where are you kind of on that scale? Because maybe that's not so good.
Right. Yeah, I think David Baird calls it the primal state, right? And a lot of people spend most of their lives in that state.
Absolutely.
It's not healthy at all.
Right.
Is it possible to manifest while feeling negative emotions, or do we have to be high vibe all the time?
Well, when you say manifest, yeah, you're just going to manifest all the things you don't want.
Mhm.
Right? When you're angry or annoyed or irritated, you don't want to stay like if you really truly want to manifest something positive, then you need to shift your vibration, and your emotions are your guidance. It's not failure. It's just a sign, and it's just an indication of like, hey, you're not in a good space. And the thing is, again, we are all gonna, I tell my clients this too, like, you could come on and have a coaching session with me and be having the best day, right? And then you leave me and something happens. Um, it's unrealistic that you're going to be vibing all the time up there. But the more that you can become aware of it and the more that you can learn to shift faster. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes you just need to be in the moment. And sometimes you just need to know, I'm going to be angry about this. And that's okay, right? It's again that recognition and awareness.
Yeah, you're allowed to have emotions, right? Like I have my pity parties all the time. I mean, not all the time, but
Absolutely.
occasionally more, right? But yeah.
And we're humans, like you said, we are in that primal state most of the time. So that's the thing, what we're doing is actually biological. It's not anything, it's not negative. It's what we had to do as a species to stay alive. But now we are out of that and we have tools. So it's again, okay, have your moment, however long. Sometimes that's got to be a month or maybe a year. But as long as you're aware that that's what's going on, that's the important part. I have found out that a lot of people they're not even aware of that. And then they sit in that, like you said, which is sad.
Yeah. I don't allow myself more than a day because
Right.
then it's wasting my time.
Right. It's true. It really is.
If someone listening wants to start manifesting today, what are the first three steps you'd tell them to take?
Okay. So you need to get crystal clear on what it is that you want, right? And, I say this in the book. You don't go into a Nordstrom and say, well, I need clothes. Then you're going to get barraged with questions, right? You have to have some kind of idea. Like, well, are you trying to buy a dress, a suit, jeans? Like, what do you need, right? So the more clear you can be, the better, okay? And then you have to align your energy and your vibration with that desire of what it is that you want. And then you have to take action. You can't, and again, that's small action, sending an email, making a phone call, doing a Google search. All of those things, when you wrote a book, I wrote a book, we know how hard that is, right?
Mhm.
But just sitting down, even if you're not, you're sitting down and you start typing and it doesn't even have anything to do with the book. You're sending the signal out that this is what I want to do. But action is really important. We cannot just sit around and just wish for things to fall out of the sky. That is definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. For the book, I had to say I was going to write 1,000 words a day.
Yep.
Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. And I had to put it on my calendar too.
Yes. Yeah. You just
Yeah.
have to schedule things just like you would anything else.
Yeah. What's one inspired assignment from your book that creates the biggest transformation?
Well, if it's all right, do we want to move to that now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, because this is one that I swear by. I have clients that swear by it. It's called the guest check process. Okay.
It looks like a old
An
restaurant
old
menu.
restaurant, right. Now, I will go tell you, full disclosure, the concept of the guest check came from the book. I don't think I have it here with me. By Esther and Jerry Hicks. Ask and it is given. So I read that book And in there, this is the best way that she explained how to let go of the how. When you go into a restaurant, you put your order in, you go about talking to the people at your table. You never worry that it's not going to come out. You don't rush back into the kitchen and interrupt the chef. You don't go down to the street to the 7-Eleven or Wawa, wherever you live in the world, and, Sheets and grab something, right? Put your order in. Sometimes it comes out quickly if they have good service. Sometimes it takes forever, but you never ever doubt that it's not coming out. So when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is how you detach from the how. So I developed a process around that I call the guest check process, which is where you're going to write a desire, something that you want. Now, I will say with this particular process, tangible things work best. So money, cars, houses, something like that. You don't want to do this for like if you're trying to do a soulmate. I just don't feel like it's as effective. So you
Mhm.
you put down the date that you want it, and then like you said, old school. I know nowadays, right? A lot of them don't have it, but you're gonna write what you want in here, um, as much as you can, as clearly as you can. Okay. And now here is the key to this. And I'm going to show you an example of one and tell you a quick story of why. Okay. So you're always going to write this or better because, again, you want to be open, but it's not your job if the universe wants to give you more. Okay.
Right.
So I always bring this one up because it's actually something that never manifested, but I want to explain why this or better is important. This was written on 8/28/22, so 4 years ago. It says Katie Thurston books her reading by September 30th. Katie Thurston was one of the contestants on The Bachelorette. I am obsessed with the show. I don't know why. I love it. Say what you want. Katie Thurston, at the time, I found her on Instagram. I read tarot also, so I sent her a message and asked her if I actually did a reading for her without her. I just pulled some cards, told her the message. I asked her if she would like a full reading because I really wanted to meet her.
Mhm.
She wrote back on Instagram, "Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Yes, let me know what I need to do." So the goal for me was to get her on, do a reading. I'm not going to lie. Then maybe she'll introduce me to all the other people, right?
Right. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it never came to fruition. Okay. And so people will be like, well, your process doesn't work. But here's how the this or better came in. What was really my intention? Yes, I did want to meet Katie. So if Katie ever watches this, of course I wanted to meet her. But my real intention was that I wanted some connection into the Bachelor Nation so that I could meet other people, read for them, and they would like my readings, right? So now fast forward to 2020, the end of 23, going into 24. My husband and I are going to celebrate our 25th um wedding anniversary, and I'm watching The Golden Bachelorette. And there's a woman named Susan Knowles who is from Pennsylvania, where I am from, and she does weddings, and she's trying to, get the bachelor, and she doesn't. He picks somebody else, but she marries them on ABC. She is the officiant. Okay. So
Wow.
now this is where most people would stop, right? So I found her on Instagram and reached out to ask her if she does vow renewals because my husband and I wanted to have our vows renewed. And tried to Instagram. And by the way, this was her business. Like she does have a legitimate business. No response. Sent an email because there was a place you could email. No response. Now, most people would give up, but that's not me. And then there was her like a phone number. And also being cautious, I was like, okay, well, I'll try the other things. So I ended up um texting her, and she immediately got back to me. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, so sorry. did not see those other things. Okay. So while we're sitting here assuming, oh, no, she never saw it. So long story short, Susan Knowles did my 25th vow renewal in March of 2024 and gave her a copy. So did her reading. She loved her reading. She came, did our vow renewal. My cousin says, "Oh, do you know who she is?" Me. "She's an author and she did this." And she's like, "Oh." So she asked me if I would give her a tarot reading right there. Gave her a reading. She's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Gave her a copy of my book. A month later, she writes to me and says, "Your book has changed my life. How do I start coaching with you?" And we have become friends. She's introduced me to people. I've done readings. The universe is like, some things take time. It took 4 years. But now, right, I've got this amazing connection. Susan's doing all kinds of things. And we're good friends. And so when you say this or better, and maybe things are not happening on your timeline, the universe knew what I wanted. It was just like, you got to be patient for this because there's going to be somebody else that you need to meet, and you're not ready to meet her yet.
Right. Oh my goodness, that story just gave me chills. Like, the goosebumps or whatever, like I'm covered in goosebumps. That's crazy, but it's, that's amazing too, right? So, yeah,
So
it's
that's what I mean.
amazing what you can like manifest from that.
Absolutely. So try the guest check process. You can Google it. You can Google to get one of these. I do. Oh, and that's the. Oh, wait. The other important part is I don't know if you can see. I do have one hanging here. Um, because I always put it up. Now I don't do that because I'm obsessing about is it coming true. That's like when, like when the old school, they used to hang the guest checks along. It's because it's just a reminder of me. You put that order in. Oh, and that's the other important piece. You put that, look, I put that order in. It didn't come to fruition, right? But I didn't rewrite it. Right? So you never rewrite it because then you're telling the universe like, "Oh, you're not cooking it." You got to give it if it's going to manifest for your, and I always say high's good. I know I've said that multiple times, but I do believe it. Sometimes things are not good for you for whatever reason that you can't see, and it's protection. And so you just have to trust that for whatever reason I wasn't supposed to talk directly yet, with Katie. And maybe still will come around. I don't know. But the point is that do not rewrite it because then you're telling the universe that you don't trust that it's coming out. Now, and you can write for as many as you want. I mean, I have a whole, I literally have a folder here, right? Of past ones. Some have come, some have not. I've just trusted the whole thing. A process of what was meant to be would be. But I like to save them because I sometimes will go when I'm in a spin of like things aren't happening. I go through this and I laugh and giggle and be like, "Oh, all right, I put in for that and it came through." So yeah, it's important to let it go once it's in and to not rewrite it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the guest check process and what you came up with. It kind of reminds me of like, because I do vision boards every year. It kind of reminds me of that, right? Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, this is a vision board for my next book that I'm working on. So,
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to follow you.
yes, and you as well. So,
Do you believe everything in our life is something we've manifested?
100% because we're vibrational and energetic beings. And so we're constantly putting out those frequencies. And so again, we're co-creators, right? We're not able to control everything, but we have a lot more influence than we realize.
Yeah, I agree. And you never know who you're gonna influence. Like I talk about the ripple effect in my book, right?
Yeah.
Like, who you contact or who you influence, then their lives touch other people's and it just keeps going, right? So you never know.
Absolutely. And yes, and it doesn't have to come again like the whole Susan thing. Like I have a great friend now, and a mentor in a lot of other ways also. We both have helped each other. And so it was like I feel like the universe was there was also that piece that had to happen. And I love that you said that, right? It wasn't about just trying to get on the Bachelor Nation and that kind of way. It was about meeting someone that's really a soul connection now.
Right. And I totally believe in soul connections.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile manifestation with real life challenges, trauma, or hardship?
Well, I think that we have to remember that, we can't blame, right? This work is about empowerment and healing and manifestation can coexist. I'm proof of it, and it has to. And my trauma, I have to say, is the reason that I learned all of this. So I'm very grateful for those things that have happened to me. I look at my life as not an accident. I needed to learn the things that I came into this lifetime to learn so that I could be a conduit to help others. And so I don't ever look back at my life and think, woe is me. And why did that happen to me? I look at that as actually empowerment, and it was necessary for my personal spiritual growth.
I totally agree as well. I think every single trial and tribulation is, like I said, everything happens for a reason. You might not see the reason right away, but it'll manifest itself down the road, right?
Yeah,
Whether you learn from it or you teach other people your lessons that you learned from it and it helps them, you never know.
right, exactly.
What's something about manifestation that people misunderstand or get wrong?
Well, a lot of people think that it's just sitting around positive thinking. But again, you have to have, the clarity, the alignment, the belief, and the energy, in order to manifest.
Yeah,
You got to have action, you got to do.
I totally agree with that. You talk about aligning to your purpose. How do people know they're on the right path? And we kind of mentioned
Yeah,
this
because
before
you're
too.
aligned and you know it. You feel that expansion.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I'm aligned and on the right path, things are easy, right?
Yes.
Um, when you're not on the right path, there's always barricades or everything's so hard. I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall to make something happen, right? But when you're aligned, it's like walking on a path by the park.
Yeah. Just flows and you're like, wow, this seems so easy.
Yes. What does authenticity really look like when someone is still figuring themselves out?
Well, you had mentioned this, right? Just do it. Show up, even when you're figuring it out. You don't have to be the expert. People prefer that you don't know everything. And I think that that's really, and that's where a lot of people get stuck. They like, people say to me all the time, like the whole Susan thing, they're like, I don't think I could have reached out. I said, why? That was her business. I wasn't, I actually did reach out to her for a service, right? She is a wedding officiant. That is her job. Why would
Right.
I not? Just because she was on TV, like that made it even better for her.
Mhm.
So it's like just do it, as Nike would say.
Yeah, I think this is why a lot of perfectionists have issues, right? Because they want everything perfect before they start. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't, right?
how has your definition of success changed since living this work?
So it's no longer about that achievement. Before I was that high achiever, had to please and everything. Now it's about the impact that I can help and create in the world, like the ripple effect that you talked about.
Mhm. What does living your own aloha look like for you right now in this season of life?
Well, because I believe that at the core, love is aloha. I feel like I'm living in that love, and I'm really trusting the process and the unfolding of what my life is, and helping others, really step into their, power. One of the things that I did forget to mention is when spirit gave me the word aloha, I was trying to figure out why. And then I actually did research on the word aloha. I talked to several experts here, people that are local, born and raised Hawaiians. And one of the things that I realized is that at the core of love, and if you look up aloha in a Hawaiian dictionary, it's going to give like almost a paragraph definition. The reason is because in order to manifest, you have to have, it has to be out of love, right? If you really want something positive. And so I realized that that word embodies so much of everything. And so it's the container that kind of holds everything. And so I feel like that's like really important. And that's what aloha really looks like is just love in the simplest form.
Nice. If someone takes only one message from your book, what do you hope it is?
You are a co-creator and a deliberate creator. You can create the life that you love, and you are more powerful than you think. So believe that.
What are you currently manifesting or calling into your life?
My second book,
Yes.
started working on that. It's a slow process, as you know, writing books are. I have a coaching business. I coach people on manifestation as well as mindset. So have been really growing the business as well. And I also read tarot, and I've been doing a lot more events. So I've been calling a lot more of that in. And so really just kind of excited about those things.
That's so amazing. Do you have anything else to share with the readers before we close out for today, or
No,
listeners?
just remember, live your own aloha, go after those dreams.
Thank you so much. This
Thank
has been
you.
such a powerful and interesting conversation. I love how you take in something that's been abstract, like manifestation, and make it practical, sensational, and emotional and deeply human. If you're listening and this episode resonated with you, I highly recommend checking out Kelly's book, Living Your Own Aloha: 5 Steps to Manifesting Your Dreams. I will provide the link to the access it in the episode description. And if you got value from today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs this message. As always, this is the Author Entrepreneur Collective, where your story is your power, your voice is your business, and your message matters. I'll see you in the next episode.